Okay, we're heading back to the state of Maine right now. Let me do this before we start. First, I'm going to welcome Charlotte, and I'm going to ask her to listen while I read a couple things, and then we're going to dive into this. Hello, Ms. Iserbyt. How are you, my friend?
Well, I guess I'm just about as good as anybody could be expected to be after
fairly
a three-year saga to protect the Constitution and, to identify the criminals in our Maine government. I'm sorry to have to say.
Well, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Let me read this first. I got 2 emails from Charlotte. I'm just going to read from them briefly. How shocking that after last Friday's hearing on the nomination of Sawchuk?
Yes, Sawchuk.
All right, Sawchuk, attended by hundreds of Mainers who were overwhelmingly in opposition to the nomination of Sawchuk, the Maine Senate decided without public hearing 3 days later to vote immediately on his confirmation. It's a sad day for Maine when testimony from my son, a U.S. combat Marine in Gulf War I, testimony backed up by discovery materials, eyewitness reports, which never saw the light of day, and audio of police planning to assassinate my son, was ignored by members of Maine's Senate. Chairman of Judiciary Committee wouldn't let Sam play the damaging audio, which proved the case. Why the hasty vote? Why no full Maine Senate hearing prior to taking a vote? There's one. Here's the other one. Most important fact is this. Sam and I offered the Republican candidate for governor, Sean Moody, and the independent candidate Hayes, the complete discovery materials provided to us by the district attorney's office, which prove that Portland Police Chief Sawchuk was involved in or authorized the 2 attempted murders of my son, Samuel Iserbyt, a resident of Portland, Maine, and a U.S. Marine combat veteran of Gulf War I. There were at least 5 eyewitness reports and the audio with police planning to kill Sam. They could have used these documents to defeat Democrat Janet Mills in her run for governor of Maine. They didn't dare use this important information and allowed Janet Mills to win the governorship. I blame these candidates for the approval of Portland Police Chief Michael Sawchuk to be the Commissioner of Public Safety and Criminal Justice for the state of Maine. Had they the guts to use these materials, Janet Mills would not be governor today, and criminal former Portland Police Department chief, under whose realm the solving of homicides was the lowest in Maine and in the nation, would not be in charge of the safety of Maine or in charge of criminal justice. So there you go. That gives you a background. It's said that as Maine goes, so goes the rest of the nation. And as Maine has gone now, communist, hammer and sickle red, I wonder how much longer the rest of the nation has. Charlotte?
I don't know. I am very sad. We've been through a lot the last 3 years, and of course, when it's your son, who barely survived. Thank God for the surgeon and the wonderful patrolman Bennis who applied.
It's a miracle. It was a miracle.
It is a miracle, and so we had that miracle. But then, what happened on Friday? And then 2 days later, we thought we would have at least a week or more to prepare for the Senate hearing.
Yeah.
They pulled a fast one. It was sort of like, remember, the Federal Reserve? They got it through on Christmas Eve or the day before.
Yep.
It was an absolutely corrupt move. And they are terrified that audio would be heard by the committee, and they would not let Sam play it. He started to play it, and the chairwoman of the Justice Committee last Friday, she pushed her button and then stopped it. And then Sam, good for him, I'm glad he did what he did. He just called them a bunch of fascists. And what was interesting is that the Capitol Police, who are not elected, they're good guys and gals, They told us, well, first of all, they were really they helped me. I was in pretty bad shape, right? So they took my arm and said, come sit down here. This isn't the full vote. The full vote will come up in the Senate next week or, 10 days from now. It could go the other way. And they said, this is the biggest crowd we've ever had in the state capitol on a vote.
Wow.
80% of the people there were opposed to Chief Sawchuk's being confirmed.
They know. Governor Mills knew Governor Mills. That was her boy, and she made sure she pulled every string she could to get confirmation.
He's been planning for that job for a long, long time, and I hope this doesn't happen in other states. Maybe the only good thing about it is it's a warning. But I've been warning for a long time, Jeff.
Yes, ma'am.
A long time about a lot of things, and whether people listen or not, I don't know. But I don't think so. I
don't know anyone, Charlotte, who's been warning as intently and patriotically and brilliantly as you have for all the years you've been on this program. I've never heard anything from you that should not alarm any honest, law-abiding American citizen. From the book on to this, doesn't matter. It's all. You keep putting it out there.
I'm thrilled. The book is being. I'm going to, we're Sao Paulo, Brazil, in May for the. My book is going to be, outed or whatever you want to call it in Portuguese, and.
You mean released in Portuguese? They're reprinting it down there.
Translating it into Portuguese in Brazil because they feel the Brazilians have got to know what's in it. And, that book is not just education. 25% of it is highly political. It goes all the way back to how this mess happened that we're looking at right now, a police state. I can say that unreservedly. We are looking at a police state, and I believe Maine is the first one to officially adopt the concept, and it has to do with the community-oriented policing system that I talk about all the time. And this police chief has been working on that for, probably well over 20 years. And I made the mistake, I guess, writing about it 20 years ago, too. And, of course, nobody has to listen to me about it. Why don't they just read what I've gotten out over and over, which is Detective Wirtz of San Diego, highly thought-of detective, who wrote a 15-page article on the community-oriented policing system being the East German Stasi.
It's Agenda 21. All-inclusive. It's communism. There's no other word for it. It
is completely. And I'm sorry, I give up. This is my last one. I'm not in it anymore. I'm finished now. I really am. I mean, everybody always says you say that and then you aren't. Well, this took it look, 3 years of fighting this and not having any support really except from your people. The people in Maine have been pathetic. We've had no support, even from people that I knew well. When I formed the Maine Conservative Union in the 1970s, there are still people around that were members, and none of them have come to support me or Sam. And to me, it's just so sad. I mean, not just for me. Where are these people? Does this exist in every state? Where people just don't care anymore about anything?
They don't. Many of them don't.
If they don't want to care about me and my son, that's sad for me. But to care about what we're talking about is different.
What you're talking about extends coast to coast. This is not anything isolated to Maine or your case. This is a harbinger of the end of America. That's what it is. Wake up and listen.
It's just awful. And how can these people look in their children's and grandchildren's eyes?
I don't know.
And maybe I'm too sensitive or something, but I think this is just horrendous. It's horrendous. How can we let this happen? It didn't have to happen. If they'd listened to you, Jeff, myself, and your other people, there are wonderful people out there. I don't know, not enough, but they've been telling the truth, and nobody wanted to listen to them. I mean, have we got to go through this before we come out the end of a tunnel that is going to have a brighter sunshine? I don't know.
Well, it's a miracle that Sam is here. It's a miracle I'm still here after what they did to me.
I know.
At least we have the voices, two voices, and there are many good voices out there. We have a First Amendment which is being allowed to be desecrated. We're not standing up on our Constitution. And this issue of the Senate, had they simply had a normal, open hearing, you and Sam would have been allowed to testify.
Oh, yes.
And you would have blown that nomination out of the building.
Well, they did. They never allowed the audio to get out. You have to give them credit. But the Judiciary Committee meeting was Friday. And we knew then, because it was only 8 in favor of the chief and 4, it was split down party line, okay? Well, we knew that probably was going to happen. But they would not let Sam play the audio. And then they threw him out of the building, which is all right, because he could take care of himself. But they were very good. They got me a taxi to take me home, and they couldn't have been nicer. The guys who worked there, right, and the gals. One gal was wonderful. And, but we figured, they told us, the guys who worked there said, don't worry about the vote tonight, because there will be a big Senate hearing. And so it never happened. They had the Judiciary Committee vote on Friday, then you have the weekend, then Monday night, they publish in the record or whatever for the legislature that they're going to have a hearing this morning. Yeah. And they vote for him. And my feeling is every single Republican should have walked out. They voted against it, and they're in the minority, but no, they should have walked out and said, this is the biggest farce that ever happened. You saw that the police guy at the Capitol on Friday told me there has never been a turnout like this. Now, most of it was, thank God, for the Sportsmen's Alliance of Maine. Mm-hmm. But the tragedy there as well was they knew about Sam's case, but they never mentioned it. And that was a mistake, because, yes, we all know we want our constitutional rights, and this police chief's going to do away with all our gun rights. We know that. But they should have mentioned the police chief's lack of concern for the use of guns to kill innocent people. They knew about Sam, and they didn't use it either. It's like it was the biggest secret in this universe.
You and Sam are the biggest secret in Maine politics in that particular area. Could be.
Certainly across the country.
Yeah.
And, we do have that one thing on the tape that says it's not federal now. That was coming out of the chief's mouth. It's not federal now.
Well, I know.
I mean,
remember. We played it all here, and
I know you have, and you were the one. You've got the audio tape, but there's nothing we can do. I mean, It's so sad, because I've been working. I went overseas in 1953. Yeah. And Korean War, and I've been at it ever since, and I love my country, and
I don't know, Charlotte, dear Charlotte. I talked to Sam yesterday, and I'm so grateful every time I talk to him. He's brilliant, and what a hero! What a real American hero
he is. He saved 23 guys in combat in Gulf War I, and he really does love this country. I don't know, maybe I brainwashed him. He started at age 14 with me, and he put all the Rense committee hearings up on the only copy of the hearings in the world that, the owner of them was offered any amount of money by the minions of the foundations for that one copy, and I bought it, and because he trusted me, the guy who owned it. And so Sam had to put more too, but 3,000 pages hand scanned into his website. And I mean, he's worked like, he's been amazingly, I mean, really, it's just so.
That's stunning.
And then he gets shot by the police in his own city, and he owns his house. And as the detective said to me, the wonderful Goodale said 2 days after, he said, Charlotte, look, aside from the attack on Sam, he should have been arrested and charged immediately for terrorizing the community, for coming down the street with a gun,
of course,
threatening to murder Sam.
Of course.
And Sam talked to another detective recently who said, Sam said, what would you do if you saw a guy like that in town? He said, shoot him.
Yeah, mad dog.
That's what so they're good police in the Portland department. But this chief, and he is now the head of public safety and criminal justice in the state of Maine. And I blame the Republican candidate, Moody, and Hayes, who, if they had taken that information and gotten it out, Janet Mills would never have been elected.
You're right. I completely agree with you. All of this I've studied, watched, read. There's no doubt about it. But you're also right. This was preordained. It was all
he's been trained. This guy has been on the fast track ever since he returned from the U.S. Marine Guard job in Moscow, Russia.
There you go. During the Soviet Union. Okay?
Exactly. At the time when Louis Freeh was over there signing, embracing the head of the KGB. And there he was, the Marine Guard. Now, I'm not saying anything about him bad, but I am saying that there have been 2 U.S. Marine Guards who were caught as spies, and they're now in jail. I'm not saying he's a spy. I'm saying something is very wrong. And also, the guy who shot Sam, he was given a public defender without being arrested or charged.
I remember. I know.
That public defender by the name of Neil Duffett was the first one to put his foot down in Russia after Ronald Reagan signed the exchange agreements in 1985 to set up a legal exchange. And that's on my website, deliberatedumbingdown.com. I see a lot of very strange things going on between Maine and Putin.
Really? Huh.
Well, what's Russia?
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, the KGB was never disbanded. They just changed the name, and
that's right.
I read that 90%, 95 over
KGB, and I'm going to go out a little bit on a limb here because who cares now? I'm looking at Robert Mueller, and I've checked him out because I was sort of supporting him. But a very good researcher talked to me, and I have an open mind. And he mentioned to me about, remember Senator Stevens in Alaska?
Sure.
Yeah, well, Robert Mueller went after him. And I always considered Stevens one of our
He went
finest.
after Ted Stevens. Ted Stevens was a good guy.
Yes, he went after Ted Stevens. So I'm beginning to think, And then I look at Donald Trump, and I look at his record with the oligarchs and Manafort and over there, and they're all working together. And sometimes I really wonder if Donald Trump isn't working with Robert Mueller, and that they're going to put in the merger.
You know, that's not as outlandish as it may seem to some. I don't trust any of it. I think it's 2 or 3 layers deep.
But the merger has to take place. That's what Rowan Gaither told Norman Dodd. that it's the merger, and that the foundations got their instructions from the White House, that was Eisenhower at the time, and the instructions were to use their money to bring about a merger between the United States and Russia, and that would now include China. So now we have Trump talking about INS, the intermediate nuclear thing, huh? Yeah. And so we're having a problem with Russia right now, aren't we? Well, then, you know what's going to happen? So Russia and China and the United States are all going to sit down, aren't they? And then they're all going to act like they hate each other. And then we're going to come to an agreement, which will be the merger. Now, it's just Charlotte imagining. It sounds like a fairy tale, doesn't it?
Not when I consider who's saying it.
And don't forget, what's his name? Golitsyn, who wrote New Lives for Old. He said that it's Lenin, and it will never go away. And then Golitsyn also said about the oligarchs, that the oligarchs, which Trump has been dealing with in Manafort, for how long, are totally controlled by, guess what? The KGB. So I'm looking at this in a different way. I've had to get off my sort of pro-Mueller kick, and I'm beginning to wonder if Mueller and Trump aren't possibly working together.
Interesting. Hold on, we have to pause for a minute, and it becomes even more interesting when you, I guess, accept the reality, and I think it's true. Trump could have gotten rid of Mueller in the beginning.
Yep.
But he didn't. So the question is obvious. Why not? Did he need all this apparent grief, or is there something else going on? All right, hold on.
Create the problem, people scream, impose the solution.
Exactly. Be right back with Charlotte in a minute. Okay, we're back with Charlotte Thompson Iserbyt. Her book, Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, is an historic treasure. It shows how the whole thing was pulled off. Planned. Her documentation is astounding. It's all true. There's no way to argue about it. This has been an absolute design destruction of the greatest jewel of a nation, of a sovereign nation, state, on the planet. And this is a crucial part of that destruction. You can't get any more crucial than taking the education system and turning it into a mind control system, which is exactly what it is, and worse. Go ahead, my dear. Let's carry on with this. I'm really sickened.
What I'd like to point out for people who think I'm insane, and I don't blame them, I've talked about Carroll Quigley many times. He was a historian for the Council on Foreign Relations, and he wrote the book Tragedy and Hope. And it's a huge book. On page 1200 or something, he says, basically, that the industrialists in the late 1800s met together, and they planned on how they would, the only way they could get what they want, which is this New World Order, is to control both parties at the top. And so that has been happening ever since. And so they pointed out that when we peons go to the polls, we'll vote, we'll think we're getting what we want, but we're getting what they want. Now, when I talk about, of course, Mueller's a Republican and so is Trump. But to me, it's very possible that this is very possible that they're working together, and they haven't got everything in place yet, so it has to take a long time. And I was overboard for Robert Mueller for a long time, really thinking he was great because of his service in the Vietnam War and all that, right?
Yeah.
But then when I read this business about the Alaska Senator Stevens, I was sickened. And I thought, this guy is not good. And neither is Trump. So they're both working. I just do believe that the merger is going to take place someday. because that's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the Soviet Union never died.
Yeah, they gave it a new
Isms
coat of
don't
paint.
die.
Yeah.
Isms do not die.
Mm-hmm.
What we have right now in Maine is fascism. We have a police state. And we have they're marvelous policemen that I know and detectives who would have been fantastic in that job.
That's a remarkable statement you just made, by the way. Isms never die. That's a classic. They
No, they don't die.
Oh.
They sometimes get pretty crappy, excuse my language, but I'd like, another point here is, if people don't believe me what happened, I want them to answer me, why was the Dodge Iserbyt case locked? Now, our attorney provided a motion to unlock, but they refused to unlock. Why? All right, now, number two, the community-oriented policing system that's going in all over the country. I used to talk about the Gene Gang plan, and nobody listened to me. It's a great drawing about how you're going to be controlled.
We posted that.
Yeah, you did. That program is a public-private partnership. And in case people don't know what that is, that's totally unconstitutional. Now, after the incident with Sam, shortly after, like a week after, the community-oriented policing system representative where Sam lives, they have about 10 groups in Portland, published on the internet the minutes of the West End Neighborhood Association, which included, they didn't mention his name, but that an individual in that area had shot himself in the leg, which was the murderer's lie, which was planned long before he carried out the attempt. In fact, the murderer had called the Portland Police Department 2 times before the attempted murder, 3 or 4 days before. Now, that's interesting. So anyway, there we have the publication of a lie by this public-private partnership known as the Community-Oriented Policing System.
Remember it by COPS, everyone. You've heard it before.
COPS, which 10 days, listen, folks, it was published by this public-private partnership called COPS, which is very dangerous. It's modeled on the East German Stasi. 10 days before the official Portland Police Department incident reports that considered my son victim and Fred Dodge as suspect, and which included 5 or 6 eyewitness statements. Now, our lawyer wants to talk to Iserbyt, who is the head of the COPS program. Well, he's evidently very important, because he even told the attorney for the police chief that he refuses to speak to the Iserbyt's lawyer. Now, go figure. Now, that's pretty bad. She's a pretty good woman, the attorney for the police department. Doesn't mean that she likes the chief or anything, but she's been there a long time, right? She's been there as a lawyer for the police department. She's highly thought of. This patrolman has the nerve to tell her that he refuses to speak to the Iserbyt's lawyer. Now, you think that's good, folks? You like that out there? You still like the COPS program? When are you going to start doing your research? It's very easy. Just Google COPS, Community-Oriented Policing System, Department of Justice. Google Trojanowitz. Detective Wirtz talks about him. Google him. He started it about 40 years ago. He talks about the family not being in charge anymore, not being capable of dealing with things, that the cops have to come in. The cops have to run the community because the families aren't capable anymore of doing it. This is not Charlotte talking. Look him up. TROGANAWITZ or something, and then just put cops. I'm asking every listener, because they won't believe me. Look it up. And also type in newswithviews.com, Detective Worts, WORTS, and you will read a 10-page document from a brave detective written in 2001 about the COPS program, which he says is the Stasi, the East German Stasi, which was the most brutal police state the world has ever known. Now, that's being put in here. And our police chief, the one who just got appointed as, I call him commissar, in Maine.
Very good. Yeah.
He's the first one. He's the first one the first page to fall. Our state. Your state's not next? Don't wait. Check it out.
You know, we have the city manager job now, the Agenda 21 program, which usurps the mayor, usurps the city council power and authority.
Absolutely.
The city manager is a dictator. If you have a city manager, you have a dictator, and that's Agenda 21. This is all part of the same beast. Oh
yes, it is. I'm glad you brought that up. Of course it is. Now, Portland, which is not a big city, but we are considered a smart city now, right? Whenever you hear smart, it means dumb, huh?
That's
all
right.
Language is all the opposite. That's the Soviet system too. But we have a city manager and we have a mayor, and then you can go back to that great article you published. Maine Heritage, which is behind this whole operation, had their luncheon, and when Sam and Steve Schran tried to bring the truth out about what had happened to Sam and the fact that the mayor had heard the audio tape and the city manager had heard the audio tape. And at that meeting, because the mayor was the guest of Heritage, he lied. And he said he couldn't remember that. He couldn't remember talking to Sam about that. Sam had 3-4 phone calls with him. He heard it. He lied. And then the head of the Maine Heritage says, I just don't think this is the place to talk about this. And then the audience says to my son, the combat Marine, he says, shut up and sit down.
I'll never forget that. When I heard that.
Now, if people out there really like that story, maybe, you know what? I think it's so remarkable, the story, as Sam said, nobody believes it.
Yeah.
We should probably give it to Gresham.
Yeah.
Or to one of the writers. And
well,
then,
the room was full of communists, it sounds to me, even if they don't even recognize
the whole city
it.
in Portland is full of communists.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm going to say this. I think each state has a very active communist cell.
Oh, I completely concur. Look up Agenda 21. There you go. It's right there. You can see the public display of it. It's obvious. Go on.
Exactly. Now, I know a very great gal in New Hampshire. She handles my website, and she's fighting on the ground. Like most Americans, they would never fight on the ground anything nowadays. They might get shot or something. Well, no, she doesn't care. She's great. And she said that in her lovely town, I think it's Bedford, New Hampshire, which is really pretty houses. Some are old, kept up nicely, a bit of property, everything. They're putting in UN agenda, all the housing, all this, and they brought a Cuban in to run it.
Oh, God. And no one said anything.
Come on, Americans. Yeah. Please. The problem with your program is that everybody who's listening knows.
Yeah, and we're not getting enough people who don't know listening. They've chosen their side, Charlotte.
They're as frustrated as I am.
Yeah.
They try to tell their neighbor who looks like, I just read that recipe on Facebook.
No.
It didn't work.
No.
Or I just burned my toast.
Or I'm watching TV. I'm going here. It's all frivolous, drooling, reactive psychology that has been inculcated into the people. They just go around reacting to stimuli. They don't understand.
The NFL,
yeah.
Sam made me watch the intermission the other night, and
I didn't watch.
It was just so awful. I mean, the robotics that are coming in now is frightening. And I never told you this story. When I was in the Department of Ed, I was leaving one afternoon after I'd leaked the technology document.
Uh-huh.
And this guy came up behind me, and there were a lot of other people leaving too. I was walking home, and he said to me, "Don't mess with technology. It's much more important than drugs."
Wow.
And I thought, ooh. And he disappeared in the crowd. Now, our new commissioner that we've got, who used to be police chief, who oversaw nothing, who let all that, we've got all these people murdered in Portland. They've never solved the murders, huh?
Lowest solution rate in America, right?
Unbelievable. But you know what he's up to now? Oh, he's Mr. Opioid. That's the big problem. Forget the murders. We're going to deal with the opioid crisis. Well, yeah, I think we should do that too, but that's not for the police chief to do. That's for medical people to do. That's for people who understand the problem. They're unbelievably scientific people, experts, etc. That's his agenda, the opioid thing. So that gets rid of his real agenda, which should be public safety, taking care of our families, patrolling our streets, catching murderers, prosecuting them. He has the worst record, I think, in the United States. Can you believe they approved this guy?
Well, they didn't approve him. This was cast in stone long ago. They went through the motions of approving him. It was a done deal.
Well, they never would have got it if it hadn't been for that Republican and that independent, Moody and Hayes, who would not accept.
They sold us out.
They did. They sold us out. And I hope everybody who's listening from Maine, if anybody is, that they understand why they have Janet Mills sitting in the governorship and why they have a commissar, the first one in the 50 states. He's a commissar. I don't care. I'm too old. They can come shoot me. I'll tell you. That's the truth.
As Maine goes, so goes the nation. Just remember that, okay? And look into your own city. I'll bet most of you, not this audience necessarily, but most Americans don't know if their city is an Agenda 21 city, if they have a charter, if they have a city manager. Just look it up. Call your local city hall. Do we have a city manager? Just act dumb. See if the person on the phone even knows. City manager is a commissar of your city. He or she runs your city. It's not the mayor. It's not the city council. It's the city manager.
Well, it's been regionalism ever since I found that article by Professor Zeitlin. It's very easy for people if they go to my book, right? All they have to do is look at the index under Z. And he was a sociologist, University of California, I think San Diego.
Yeah.
And he wrote an article for the Communist Daily World. And he basically said, listen, folks, listen, regionalism is communism. And UN Agenda 2030 is communism. And you hear Trump tonight saying, we're never going to be socialists.
He said that. I didn't see it. I won't.
Oh, yes. He said, this country will never be socialist. I thought, at least he uses the right word, because the communists never use the word communist. They call themselves what? The United Soviet Socialist Republic. So we will be the United States Socialist Republic, just like Gorbachev told, the European Union in London. He said the European Union is the new European Soviet, which makes the North American Union the North American Soviet. What could be clearer? What is a Soviet? It is a council form of government, which means unelected.
Not of, by, and for the people. No more.
And everybody's screaming and yelling about the Constitutional Convention? What a joke.
I haven't heard much about that lately. Is it still on the front burner in some circles?
They come up with it. It's a diversion all the time, these neocons who are all part of this. I mean, look at Coach. With what's his name? That was the marriage between the two of them recently.
The Koch brothers. Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the Van Jones. Okay, Washington Post. Just type in Washington Post, Koch brothers and Van Jones. They're all going to get together nice. It's nice. It's a little dance they're going to have now between the conservatives and the liberals and the blacks and everybody else. And I always say black because I like that word, and they were very involved in the American Revolution. I have a great print from my mother-in-law about a black guy pulling down St. George. So, you know, they're great people, the blacks in our country.
It's sad that the American blacks of today don't honor and celebrate those people more. I know they'll say that they do. They should.
I think they do, but you don't hear from them.
I was just going to say that.
The only things you hear about the black community are the things that make us think that they're all horrible. And it's the same thing with the Hispanics and the Mexicans and everybody else. Everybody's got to hate everybody else. And that is communism. Oh, but now we got Van Jones and Coach Feathers.
Now, Van Jones is a commentator on CNN, I believe. Isn't he?
Oh, he is now, yes. Yeah. And he's getting along beautifully. They're dancing together.
So that's the sit-down meeting you were talking about. That's the melding. Yes,
it is. Mm-hmm. And this is where, you know, what's the dialectic, right? You have two opposite sides, and then you come to a conclusion. So you come to the middle,
right?
Which is, you know, okay, it's wrong to steal. It's not wrong to steal. Well, then we all get down and we talk together, and then we come out. Okay, sometimes it's okay to steal, and then you move over a little bit, and then it's always all right to steal. Okay, this is what's going on with the Koch brothers who fund Heritage and every other conservative, phony, neoconservative group in this country, mm-hmm. Koch brothers. Mm-hmm. And you've got them working with Van Jones. Now, go figure.
No. It is what it is. It is exactly as you described. And it's going exactly where you're telling us it's going. And Gorbachev wasn't lying. See, this is all an old plan. This goes way back. All of it. They've got time on their side. They took control of the media. Then, they actually created the media. Then they took control of what they didn't have control of. Then they took control of the education system.
That's right.
And in the beginning, they had control of the money. So what else is there? Ultimately,
and how they get control of the money the day before Christmas, wasn't it? Or the 2 days before? Just like this lousy vote. What do? They vote. The Democrats vote in the Justice Committee on Friday, 5 p.m. or something. Then everybody has a little weekend. I guess they had some meetings, didn't they? Then on Monday, they talk about, we better move fast because we had the biggest turnout the state capitals ever had in opposition to this police chief. Mm-hmm. So we've got to move fast. So what do? They don't. They wait. Monday morning, they vote before anybody has an opportunity to submit testimony, to call anybody. They vote. I swear, maybe the bylaws are being abided by. I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, that's criminal.
That shouldn't have been allowed. Someone should have taken it, if you had a legitimate court system there, should have been taken to court. No public input.
Should have left.
No,
the Republicans should have vacated that chamber.
Sure.
And said, we are not voting today.
I agree. They shouldn't have participated. They had that in their hand, and they just let it go. I don't know. Sickening. What's happening?
Well, I must say, we've had 3 years of, can't describe it.
Hell.
And I had hoped that maybe the sun would shine and the truth would come out. And it doesn't really have anything to do with Sam. It has to do with the truth about what our government is doing and not doing, and how illegal it is and unconstitutional, and how Sam had every single major constitutional right denied him. He didn't even shoot the guy.
He had every right denied him. That sums it up perfectly. And remember, isms never die.
No, they do. They never die. They never do. I don't care if it's Catholicism or Protestantism or communism or socialism or fascism.
No, they're tools of mass manipulation, of course.
And that's what's so great about our country. It has never been called an ism. It's a republic.
We'll talk again soon. Whenever you want, let me know. I'm always here. You know that.
Well, I don't know. I will. That's the only thing I'm going to do is I'll talk to you, but I'm not doing any more activism. I've had it.
Well, you've carried on your shoulders millions of Americans, and I think you deserve the time off. So if you want to take that, you take it. And
you too, you know, buddy, but I don't know how to get you out of there.
I don't know. Charlotte, you say hi to Sam.
I will say hi to Sam. He says hi to you. And God bless you, Jeff, because you're just so unique. I mean, wow, 300 million people in this country, and I know there are a few other really good journalists, not very many. You know, you count them on your hand, on one hand, huh? Yeah. You know who they are. But you're the tops. And I heard somebody say that today, and I was surprised, because that person, I didn't think in the beginning had really knew much about you.
Well, thank you.
And she said he's the only good one out there.
Wow, thank you. I'm glad we're getting through to the people that count, people who still are Americans.
Yep. Well, God bless everybody. God bless us. God bless the United States. Pray for a miracle, please.
That's what it's going to take. Be well, Charlotte. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks a lot. God bless everybody. Bye-bye.
Charlotte Iserbyt. There's only one.